All right, our guest is Nina Milošević. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to this interview, of course. First and foremost, congratulations on winning gold in the female bantamweight division at the 2022 IMMAF Worlds.
Thank you very much.
We're going to get into it. I have a lot of questions to ask about the tournament, of course. Where are you located right now? Are you in Serbia or Sweden?
I'm in Sweden right now, in Gothenburg.
Okay, cool. I didn't know if I should say Zdravo or Habari. So I'll just say both.
I understand either way, so.
There you go. You're trilingual, right? You speak 3 languages?
Yes, I do.
Right on, right on. So first and foremost, this isn't your first your first gold medal at the IMMAF Worlds. This is your second one, along with a long list of other achievements, including European MMA champion, Swedish MMA national champion, multiple time grappling champion and medalist, as well as silver medalist in Muay Thai at the national level in Sweden. It's fair to say that all you do is win. And my question, well, I mean, the stats are there, right? So yeah, it reminds me of that song. I don't know if you remember that song.
Which one?
All
I do is win. Yeah, I love it.
When I read
I can vibe.
yeah, when I read your resume, that resonated with me. I was like, oh wow, that should be your song. But I have a question for you in regards to, so you win. This is the second time you win in the IMMAF Worlds, but this one is in Belgrade, Serbia. What does it mean for you personally and professionally? And is this victory any different than previous ones? And if so, how and why?
I wouldn't say more important because they both mean very much to me in separate ways, like in different ways. Like last time it was special because it was my first time ever competing in such a tournament and like going in there like an underdog and winning the whole thing. It was just like amazing. But this time's actually it feels also like magical because I made history for Serbia. I was for Serbia. It was the first time they were in a tournament like the Worlds,
right?
And I was the first Serb ever receiving that gold. So it's a historical moment for the country for me, and it feels special in that matter.
Mm. Yeah, we'll get into that as well because I think there's been a lot of media and coverage in regards to this, and I'm sure it's a new experience for you. I would imagine getting all this attention. Now, I remember trying to find you on social media, particularly on Instagram. At first, I couldn't find you at all, but eventually I did. And when I did, I laughed very hard because your Instagram handle is just brilliant. It really is. For anyone, you got to check this out. It's called TheRealQUEENBeast. And I laugh because I'm like, this is a fascinating name. Like, I'm a fan of other combat sports and sports entertainment, pro wrestling, and so on. And I was like, this is a very marketable moniker, brand, whatever you want to call it. I'm curious to know, what is the origin story of this name? Who gave you this name? Why? Tell us the story behind the name, please.
It started actually like 8 years ago or something, like in my teens. And I started out competing in Muay Thai. And I was like winning all my fights very, very early. And somebody in my Facebook comments just write it down like, oh, fucking Queen Beast. And I just like, okay, I'm going to go with that. And that's the story behind the nickname.
Interesting. Now, have you done any marketing to like buy the domain name and buy, like, have you thought ahead in terms of branding the name and all that?
I have, but I haven't come to that point where I have taken any actions towards it. But it is of course in my mind, but I'm still like very new at this everything, so I'm gonna take it step by step.
Fair enough. Now, speaking of social media, just recently I saw a post you shared on Instagram. It was a very interesting statement, along with a highlight video of your matches from the Worlds. The post reads something along the lines of, well, I'll just quote it here. Even though you are grateful and appreciate everybody's part in your success, in the end, it would never have happened if you didn't work hard for it yourself. Something along those lines here. Now, there's more to the post. Basically, you're thanking yourself for your investing in you, betting on yourself, and believing in yourself. Tell us about this statement, why you made it. I found that to be a very interesting statement, and I'm curious to know why you wrote this and share that with the world.
Many people often say that I'm just talented and stuff like that. Of course, I have good genes, but not because I don't post so much how hard I train, every training and stuff like that. When I'm posting, it's usually like fun videos at practice and stuff, but a lot of people actually don't know how much I train, how much I'm studying MMA, how much time I put and effort in this sport. A lot of things I'm sacrificing just to be able to achieve what I achieve. And that's actually the story behind my statement there. And I took it from Snoop Dogg because yeah.
Right on. If I could ask a follow-up in regards to that, can you paint a picture as to just even before the Worlds, how hard were you training? Give us an idea of the level of commitment and what your overall work ethic is, because you're saying obviously you're talented, right? But you've invested in your talent to be where you are. So paint that picture for us as to what your schedule would look like, say Monday to Sunday, as far as training.
All right. I'm a morning person, so I wake up every day at 5 by myself, and I'm very proud of it. And from let's say from 5 until 8, I'm actually sitting in front of my computer and just studying. My head coach, Joachim Engberg, he makes a lot of instructionals for us, and we have a red thread through our blocks. How I can I don't know how to explain it, but we're training blocks. So I'm doing that. Also, I'm searching like for recovery foods, like doing my meal preps, etc., etc. That's the like the theoretical part of my work. Then we have the practical. It's when I go to train. Usually I train between 9 and 11, and it can vary. So I'm not going to go in specific details about my training. And then I come home, I eat, I sleep, and then I wake up going to train again. And then I'm just sleeping. I'm going to, then it's night, and then I just sleep.
Right on. So, and in terms of the sacrifices, well, one last follow-up, if you don't mind. In terms of when you say sacrifices, what do you mean by that?
I don't feel it, but I feel it like sacrifices. I don't do like I don't do stuff like normal people do. Usually they see their friends, they go out, right. They can plan trips, doing stuff. It doesn't have to be parties, but overall hanging out with each other and stuff like that. And for me, sometimes it can feel like, not all the time, because I obviously love MMA and wouldn't like trade it for anything else. But sometimes I would like to just go see my friends for coffee or something, but most of the times I cannot, because I have my routines and I have to follow them.
Right on. And I guess we're going to dive into this next question that I have. I guess it's more of a statement. I noticed that, and I respect everything that you're saying there in terms of your level of commitment and desire for the sport and competition. I think it takes a lot of that, right? A lot of discipline, and this is how people rise to the top of their domain. If it's combat sports, if it's business, if it's art, etc., right? There's always this consistent theme of like, driven, disciplined, and focused. I noticed in your matches, before we break them down, I'd like to really hear detailed breakdown of your matches from the tournament. But before that, I noticed there's like this raw, I wrote these notes down here, so I'm just going to read them to you. There's this like raw, cerebral, and authentic savagery about you and the way you fight and compete. You know, you systematically and tactically, you know, you take these tough, talented opponents and you break them apart piece by piece, you know. And I recommend anyone to go and watch your matches, and they'll see what I mean. But yet, as you do this, Nina, you're smiling here and there. We see you crack a smile. You know, you go from being this beast, the real queen beast, to smiling as you're smiling now, which I find fascinating. In my opinion, you know, as I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, you know, obviously this is a very talented mixed martial artist, but it seems that like you're, as a spectator, I say this, your real asset is this intentional, calm focus that you have. You know, when you go into the fight, you kind of, you're in it, and you're dictating the pace, and you seem to be consistently calm and focused throughout. How did you develop that state of mind, and how did you get into that sort of level of focus? And I'm saying this as a spectator watching. You're probably thinking like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Maybe not, but lead us into how you get into that state of deep focus and calm in these fights.
I can say I started competing very early. So that's a big benefit for me, because during these years I have developed this, and I have developed it, how do you say, progressively. Yeah. And also because I train so hard as I do, I have good cardio. I know I'm all around fighter. I know also I have very hard punches and kicks, and that makes me very confident when I step into the cage. And also I'm not afraid to take punches, and that also is a strength I'm feeling. So before I get into fight mode, I'm always thinking about my strengths, and that like, how do you say,
Motivates you?
Motivates me and makes me calm, because I know no matter whatever happens, I'm gonna survive. Usually people are scared or nervous or anxious. Like, it's okay to be that, but usually I'm just very happy, because this is a perfect time for me to really see how far I have come. Because when you compete, it's just receipts on how much receipts of if your training is good or not. So I don't see like whether I win or lose. I don't see, that doesn't define me. Like I just see that I'm going in there to learn and be better.
Fascinating answer. If I could follow up and ask more generally, what motivates you to fight and to compete?
Because we don't have competitions very often, it's easy to feel like you are in limbo with your training. So when you finally have these tournaments, I love these tournaments because you have so many fights in a row. Finally you have the how do you say, the time to opportunity, thank you, to actually see where you are, and that your training has been good or not.
Now, can you quickly paint the picture of what MMA looks like in Sweden, particularly in the amateur scene, for women or men, or both, actually? If you could give us kind of a summary of what it looks like. Because you said,
yeah.
you sorry to interrupt. You said that there's not much activity there, or the opportunity to compete is not as frequent. That's what I heard. So I'm just curious to know how active is, obviously at the professional level. We know that Sweden is very active with MMA, but as far as the amateur scene, is it on par in terms of its development?
Actually, Sweden is one of the most developed, I would say. But the thing is, female fighters, they're not a lot. Like we have this in Sweden, it's called liga tävlingar, and it translates like league competitions. Like they have it, let's say 5 to 8 times, 5 to 6 times all year round, and you have to sign for them to be able to compete for Swedish nationals. And if you win the Swedish nationals, you have a place in the national team. For men, almost all weight class are full. So they have more opportunities to compete. But in the women's division, usually, if you can find an opponent, that's very good. But most often you don't have anybody that you can fight, and that means that you don't have so many opportunities to fight.
What about training in this scenario? Are you training predominantly with male fighters, or with some female, or is it a mix of both?
In our gym, we are actually 3 women, so that's actually a lot. And but we are in different weight classes, so it's not realistic to always train with each other. But most of the time we do train with male fighters, because there are more of them. Because when we do sparrings and stuff, we have to change partners.
Right. All right. Now let's dive into your matches. I want to get as much detail round by round of each of your matches, please. Starting off first against Lama Nasser from Lebanon. Tell us about this match with round number 1.
Yeah, she was a wild card, because it was the first time I saw her in IMMAF in the bantamweight division. But I don't look up my opponents. I never do, not in tournaments, because you cannot have a specific game plan for each other, for everybody. So I actually didn't know what kind of fighter she was, but she was actually, when I fought with her, she was actually a very good striker, because she was able to give me a scratch on the cheek here, but because I'm a pressure fighter naturally, and it doesn't matter if somebody punches back, I still continue to go forward. And I actually wanted to do a lot of cage fighting, and that's why we ended up down on the floor.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there was a good exchange from the beginning, it seemed, in terms of striking, but between both of you. 30 seconds into the match, we see you going for a double leg, and you slam her, and you lace the legs. At one point, you secured and controlled both of your opponent's arms with one arm from wrapping from the around, which was incredible. Her back, you wrapped it around her back while you're punching her in the face, which was like, I don't think I've ever seen that anywhere else before. Correct me if I'm wrong. You know, that sort of with one arm, basically wrapping both behind the back, hitting on the face. It was quite brutal, I must say. But your opponent was very physically strong, because she endured that and she stood back up. So respect to her, of course. I don't say, you know what I mean, in any disrespect.
No, I understand. I totally agree with you.
Because if that was me or any other mortal, I would have tapped out, screamed. You know what I'm saying? Like, your arms are wrapped and you're getting clobbered in the face. My goodness. And then somehow Lama stands back up. But I think you still you dump her back down, and you've secured you've gone on top of her, and you're controlling her entire left side of the body, left leg and arm. And from there, you slide into mount for a ground and pound TKO victory. I'm curious to know, like, there's as you mentioned, you're a pressure fighter, and we see that consistently actually throughout this tournament. We see that even in your previous fights at Europeans, there's this consistent pressure, this really interesting way of like tying. I mean, it's mixed martial arts. We're seeing the beauty and the science of like the striking arts, the grappling arts, how you get the tie clinch, you bring them close, you control the wrist, you know what I mean, lapel or the back of the neck. You just this is what I mean by systematically breaking them down. And you're strong as an ox. You could tell by the way you manipulate your opponents. Now you're moving on to the quarterfinals, but before against Spain, before we do, give us kind of, for anyone who's never seen you fight, and I hope people check out your Instagram profile, because there's some great content there in terms of highlight videos. But how would you describe yourself as a fighter? You said you're a pressure fighter, but like, stretch that out for us and give us more detail as to your influences and your inspirations. Who would you compare yourself to stylistically as a fighter? I have a few names in mind. Well, anyways, who cares what I think? I want to hear what you think. Who would you describe yourself as?
Wow. Okay, let me think a little bit. But you can see very like it's very clear that I have this Thai style fighter in striking, and I know that it's a lot of many fights are not so much. Yeah, of course you have to have the physique to be able to do the sport, but a lot of times it's just mentally. And I know, like, if I push, if I put pressure on my opponent, I'm gonna break them down like step by step, and not showing, like having poker face if they like touch me or something, that I don't show like, you cannot do nothing to me, it's not gonna work, but I'm gonna like step by step pick you apart. That's a little bit my mentality, like that. And also like never giving them a chance to breathe,
right?
Like to come back. You understand?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Even in this match here, we see this in this match where the way you wrap both arms around them, you know what I mean? Like you completely smother them, and then you just a hammer fist and just straight up, and it's like an assault. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, I don't mean to exaggerate. I'm getting carried away, but it's technically that you're breaking them down. You're smothering them. Every opportunity to exploit and just crush their spirit. And I say that respectfully, folks. You do that, and it's and people have to see it to believe it, and it's incredible too. And you have that Thai style, but you also, people tend to see, strong strikers not necessarily with a highly developed grappling game, particularly a takedown, a transition from stand-up to ground to submission finish. We don't see that full comprehensive picture. But with you, we see all of that aspects, even with the fine details. You know what I'm saying? So it's a really comprehensive sort of game, and I was going to say, on the wrestling side or the grappling side, it's very easy for us to say, oh, this is almost like a Khabib-like style. But even he doesn't have that sort of striking per se. Striking is not his overall, his strength. It would be more the cage fighting, the wrestling, the controlling aspect, But so sorry, go ahead, continue.
No, but it's good because I think you're able to explain it a little bit better than me also. So when it comes to the striking part, I don't know but who my similarities are, maybe more like Muay Thai fighters, because I have I'm very straight up and doing the Thai clinch a lot of times. But when it comes to the cage wrestling and controlling on the ground, it is a lot of it's similar to Khabib, I would say.
Right, and I mean there's that similarity, but there's also that there's, you know, it's not just controlling for controlling, it's controlling for dominating, you know, because you get in, and we'll get into more of your matches here actually where we can expand on that, because it's there. I think there's more to it. And after watching all these matches, I had to ask myself, like, well, what is this person's, if you have a quote unquote flaw as a competitor, what is it? Because, you know, I'm watching all these fights and I'm scratching my head. I'm like, I'm just being honest here. I don't see any flaws. I don't see something to exploit as far as, you know what I'm saying? So if anyone,
I understand.
if you have an opponent to fight and they watch all this tape of you, they're probably going to be equally confused, because, you know, and I thought about it and I'm like, okay, if you went up against a purist, like say a pure, you know, freestyle wrestler or a pure judoka or a sambo player, even then, you know, okay, there's a lot of takedown, as I mentioned, and there's a lot of transition and control. So it's a fascinating matchmaking scenario. I think fans would really appreciate, you know, seeing you fight. So if you're listening to this interview, make sure you check her fights and check out the highlight. Let's move on to the quarterfinals. You face off against Spain's Mercedes Custodio Lopez. Oh, actually, before we do that, at the end of the match with La Manasa, we see you guys hug and we see a show of respect and sportsmanship, which is fantastic, of course. Do you want to comment on that?
I think we have to show each other respect. Like we don't know each other. Like we both are there to just prove how good we are. Like we're not there. Like how should I explain it? Like this is a sport.
Right.
She hasn't done nothing to me. I haven't done nothing. We are both there equally on, or like we want to be there both to see how far we have come in our training. That's how I see. So it has to be sportsmanship. So I have full respect against my opponent, whether I win or I lose, because you have to show respect. I think for me it's common sense, but maybe others don't think like that.
No, it's definitely common sense. I agreed with you. It's just nice to see that after such a war and such a beatdown, you know, that there's a mutual respect for your opponent, of course. Sorry, did you want to say?
No, I just wanted to say, I mean, I respect everybody that has the courage to step into the cage, just that. So, I mean, it's not the easiest sport. It's one of the extremest sports you can do. Just step into the cage. So, I mean, respect for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Now, moving on against Spain's Mercedes Custodio Lopez, whom you fought the Europeans in October. Lead us through this match. And what was it like fighting her again and knowing, you know, what she brought to the table? Was that an advantage for you, the fact that you had previously fought her?
Yeah, it is. It was because from Europeans to worlds, it was only like 5 months or something. And I mean, of course, you can improve yourself and work on specific stuff, but it's still a very short of amount to be, how do you say, better at everything. You know, you have to be, if you gonna be better, you have to train specific and just on that stuff, on that in that aspect, exactly. And I knew for this, like I had good cardio for Europeans, but for the worlds I was a monster. Like my cardio, I wasn't even like, I knew that my cardio was so good that I felt like I had this just because we fought in the Europeans.
Right on. Now, lead us through round number one. We see Lopez being very confident from the start with the attack. Lead us through round number one, please.
I because also this my Thai clinch usually works on people best. It works best when I'm the same height with my opponent, or they are shorter than me, and I think me and Lopez are, I think she's a little bit shorter or the same, so I knew just that I had to go and grab the Thai clinch because I am very strong, and my grips are strong too, as well. So I knew I could do that probably again, and if she would counter it, I'm good at separating, like framing, and get out of it quick too.
Right. So we do see that clinch work, and we see some vicious strikes but between both of y'all. At one point, I think Lopez goes for a single. Then from there, we see some more striking back and forth. Great head and body control as you're pressing Lopez on the cage. And at one point, I believe you were smiling, which I thought was funny, which is great. Whatever, which is great, which is awesome. And then you step inside, almost pivot, like to take the opponent, to take her down. And at one point, you're in half guard, and you've wrapped her hand and elbow to one side, while her abdomen, her stomach, pardon me, is exposed, and you're just again viciously attacking the rib, her stomach and her rib area. And somehow Lopez survives this attack, because again, it's very similar to the previous match, right? Where you essentially have them down, you have them in a vicious ground and pound scenario, and you're just unleashing. And you know, Lopez survives that attack, which was, she's not giving up, which is incredible. And it goes to show the level of heart and determination all your opponents had throughout the tournament, and talent. Yeah. And then we see, sorry?
No, I'm actually agreeing. Yeah. Because
please continue. I'm talking too much.
No, I'm agreeing because I have to say this, but female fighters, they tolerate much more than a lot of male fighters. So in that, like, they don't cave so fast. That I have very much respect for.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because both this scenario and the one I spoke with your opponent from Lebanon, the first one, both scenarios were you know, where the average fighter, I'm generalizing here, folks, would have tapped, or the referee would have jumped in and ended it. But like, we see both fighters determined to just hold on, believe, you know what I mean, just a bit longer and push through, which is hard, which is confidence, and which is just that fighting spirit, you know, which is and it's awesome to see from this perspective. So we see the end of round one. We see you smiling like you're at an IKEA picnic or something by the end of round number one. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're just you're just happy.
Yeah. That's my personality. I can't hide it. I actually don't have good poker face. I try to be this, you know, people going in and looking all hard and tough.
Sure.
No, it doesn't work for me. I have to, you know, a nice face, you know. So.
Right. No, it's awesome. I just say that because we see, as I was saying from the top, you know, we see this very focused, you know, fighter, very focused, fighting, and then we see this, you know, moment of just like, hey, I'm just having fun. And now, end of round one, we see you dominated that round. We're going into round number two. Very interesting round, because Lopez starts extremely aggressive in this round here with a blitz punch, like a Superman punch.
Yeah.
Lead us through
and
this
overhand
round.
also. She's good at the overhand too.
That's right. Lead us through this last round here.
Oh, because I think
So at this point, you take her
I just
down, and
yeah
you're in the ground and pound position from the top, and I think
yeah
you get full mount on her, right?
yeah exactly.
And then
Uh, and then she turns around, and then I have my hooks in. She is in this turtle position, and I
Mhm.
have my hooks in, and I'm still ground and pounding. And then she's trying to turn around, like roll
Right.
on her back, and that's when I grabbed for the rear naked choke.
Mm-hmm. And she taps and you win this match. Now this particular opponent you fought before, and your next opponent going into the semifinals, you fought as well in the finals at the Europeans in October. I'm talking about Poland's Paulina Kotna, who was the 2021 European gold medalist champion. Lead us through this match here and tell us a bit more about this opponent. Well, what do you know about her?
I know she's a wrestler. Her background is a wrestler, and that I noticed at the Europeans. But because we fought, and I know, like, when you, I know this from experience. When you lose, there's nothing greater, nothing that motivates you so much as coming back stronger. And I was aware of this because I won against her on the Europeans, and because I knew she was a wrestler, she would probably like. I was thinking like it's like a chess play, that she was gonna be focused on her striking more. So I had to have I had to be aware of that. And in the beginning, you can see that we are striking more, and that she tries to take me down a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
and then she actually do throw, and I countered that with going around like a sprawl,
Right.
and then we are fighting. I think uh, she's like trying. It was a lot of back and forth in this fight, I remember.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, totally. It was a great first round, you know. I was there was a lot of energy there as you mentioned in terms of you know, right from the get-go there's a lot of back and forth, lots of striking and exchange there. We see the tie
yeah.
clinch control, head control. You do this head control, wrist control, and you pressure against the cage. We see her, sorry, go ahead. You're going to say
No,
something?
sorry, I don't know. No, continue.
And at one point, we see her going for an ankle pick of sort. Yeah, her wrestling clearly showed in the Europeans, obviously, and in this one here,
Mm.
we see her being very quick and agile with her ability to drop for an ankle pick, etc. She's very fierce. I wrote in my notes, she's fierce, fearless, and moving forward relentlessly. I think that goes into your point about her, you know, wanting revenge for her loss, right?
Yes.
We could
Yeah.
see that sort of forward movement. But you had that the tie, you know, the clinch and the vicious knees and vicious striking. Good God Almighty! At one point, there's a hammer fist festival, you know,
Yeah.
by the end of the round, and it's just you're just unleashing these hammer fists. But at one point, the referee, I guess there's a situation where the referee, I guess, warns you about hammer fisting the back of the head. Can you explain what happened there? What exactly happened? And did you like, was it a hit to the back of the head? If you could clarify.
I think so, because the thing is, I think obviously I'm excited,
Right.
and I'm not looking so much. I'm just looking for opportunities to like hit her in the head and face.
Mm-hmm.
But as she's moving and trying to defend herself, and I'm just throwing them out.
Right.
Of course, because her head was down.
Right.
Of course, they're gonna hit the back,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not my
It's not
intention.
intentional, right? It's not
No,
intentional.
exactly. But it happens because
Right.
as I am throwing, she's moving, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
that's that. Usually I don't hear the referees because they don't stop me and say, hey, like a warning. Usually they just yells it out. But when you are in fight mode, you don't hear so much. You are just focused on doing your thing.
Right.
But at the end of the round, then he said to me and was warning me. So that's when I, okay, oh shit, I did that. Like,
right. Right. No, it was, you're saying it wasn't intentional ultimately. And reading into round number 2, the commentary team did an outstanding job, obviously. And at one point in round number 2, I don't know if you went back and you watched it, but the commentary, one of the commentators says, she's just brutalizing Kontna. I don't know if you heard that at one point in round number 2. Can you describe round number 2 for us and what happened and the finish?
Or I just remember parts, but I remember it was again striking, and then she's trying to take me down as I like trying to defend that, and then I had a very good grip on her, like we're standing, but like in wrestling position, and I'm on her side. I managed to take a very deep hook on her shoulder, and as I'm turning around, it looks like I'm gonna lose my position, but because I had very good grip on her shoulder, I managed to stick on her, like be able to like elevate on her, or
Right.
how do
Yeah.
you say? Yeah.
Elevate right on top of her. Yeah.
Yeah, and from there I took the rear naked choke. Usually when you are so high up on somebody, it's easy for them to just pull you over.
Right.
Yeah, drop you, or
Right.
but because I had this deep grip, I was able to have balance myself, a balance on her.
And you finished her there, and now you've won. Essentially, you're in the finals. But in the finals, we're going to transition here to your last match, which technically did not occur. It was supposed to be against Brazil's Josiana Oliveira. The fight, she had her medical exam failed. I'm just reading what was published online, which means you win. Tell us the story, how it all unfolded, and how you found out about it, and your initial reaction to the fact that you wouldn't be able to fight Oliveira.
I was actually a little bit sad because when I went to this tournament, I was happy that I had like I already fought Poland and the Spanish girl in the Europeans. So going to the finals, I was actually excited to fight somebody new.
Right.
So when I found out that she wasn't able to compete, yeah, it was like, and also I had this, like in the Europeans, I had the 3 in a row finishes, but for the Worlds, I wanted to have 4 finishes, like a new record. So for that not being able to do, it was also a bummer. But I got the gold, so I'm still happy.
For sure, no, you got the goal, and it's interesting to say, as you just mentioned, you've won one via TKO and 2 submission finishes, so it's 3 finishes. Whereas your opponent, well, Oliveira, she won all her matches via judge's decision, which is an interesting sort of scenario, right? One fighter finishes via judge's decision, and the other one finishes via TKO or submission. So that's interesting. Now, I have to ask, in terms of at this point, you know, obviously you've won your world champion yet again, and you're in Serbia, in Belgrade, and there's a lot of attention, obviously, even in the lead up to the worlds. I believe that there was some content and media that was put out in regards to you going there. How did you deal with all the attention you were getting locally, nationally, digitally, etc.? All the media you did. I believe I saw some clips, some media clips as well on Serbian media, etc. What was it like being under so much, I guess, spotlight or attention?
One word, overwhelming. Literally overwhelming, because I, I actually, this will sound very funny. I have very much energy in the morning, like from 5 to 12. Then I have a lot of energy and I can be social and stuff like that. But after 12, I'm antisocial. I don't like people. I just like, leave me alone, you know?
Right.
So
Wow.
because everything was always like later in the day, I was like, oh my God, not again, not again. I was so like drained.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I appreciate it, of course. Like,
Sure.
I like to be like, I appreciate because my work is appreciated and people want to know and stuff like that. But if I can choose, please do the media early in the morning when I have energy.
Right.
Then it wouldn't be so overwhelming and I would be able to deal with it better. Make sense?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I can only imagine, you know, all the requests and so on for interviews and just all the attention and this victory's brought. And even like as someone, you know, I sent you a message on Instagram and you're probably like, who the hell is this guy? What the hell does he want? But I'm sure it's not just me. It's like, you know, it's
No.
other people, right? So you're like, you know, the folder where it's like people that you don't know that send you messages.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that's filled with, you know what I'm saying? All sorts of.
Yeah. The thing is, I forgot about that because the thing is, when I got so much attention, I got a lot of more followers, and my Instagram account actually spammed, like not spam, but it hacked, but it was bugging. So I actually don't know who was following me, nothing. I couldn't see the comments, nothing. My Instagram was totally down.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true story. So afterwards I had to go like specifically, and like a lot of messages also raised, like I know I could down and see notifications from this person. Then when I go into the DMs, I was like, oh, I don't have nothing.
Oh,
So
no,
I
wait.
think
So
people,
you've lost some messages.
yeah. I
Ooh.
think a lot of people think considering very rude, and I'm sorry about that, but actually my Instagram was a disaster.
Wow.
I cannot like get back and see stuff because it was spammed.
Interesting. I'm, you know, you probably don't have the number and you don't need to disclose it, but I'm almost curious to know how many messages you've gotten for, or even in terms of followers, you know, that you've gained over that week-long action. In addition to that, a follow-up. What does all this sort of attention for you mean now as a fighter, you know, a two-time world champion? What does all of this media attention and new audiences that you've gained? Like I'm located in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. It's like 5 a.m. in the morning, you know, when we started this interview, it's almost it's 11 over there. You know what I'm saying? Like you're
I understand.
yeah, well, what does that mean ultimately for you?
I mean, I just want like be able to like show people what I know, to share my knowledge, to inspire people. It doesn't matter if it's MMA or whatever. Like I just want to yeah, like that. I want to like be able to share my knowledge and to inspire others to pursue their goals, and to be like ambition, and to work hard, to have good work ethic, stuff like that.
Hmm. And those are great goals. I think people always look up to sports, to athletes and competitors for motivation, especially on social media. You see a lot of that sort of content coming from professional, amateur professional athletes in whichever sport, of course. So it's great that you're doing that. In addition to that, on the weekend, or sorry, during the week, the IMMAF had the award ceremony, and you got an award there. Tell us about the award you got and what it meant to receive this award.
I was nominated in two categories: best female fighter and best newcomer. Obviously, Sabrina won the award for best female, as she should, because she's 3-time world champion, and respect to her. But I got the award for the best newcomer, because it was first time I competed in IMMAF was last year, so I have only competed for only 1 year, and I think I took them with storm, because as underdog, winning gold for winning gold in Worlds and Europeans as an underdog. I don't think it's usually it's very unusual. So I think that's why I got nominated and got the award, and it was pretty cool. Because first I thought it was only for female fighter. I didn't even know I was nominated for the newcomer. So when I saw Sabrina de Souza, I was like, oh, okay, but it's fair. I understand. And then from suddenly they said my name, and I was surprised, because I only thought I was nominated for female category. So it meant a lot. I was very, very happy and honored, very honored.
How follow up for you? It seems like it was a very intense week. Like you're competing, you're fighting, you're winning, and you're also winning an award. How was it transitioning from that busy week of high energy to where you are now, like a few weeks after the tournament? How has that transition been like?
Oh, my reaction was to get sick, actually, because
No.
I was cutting weight. Like I was in so much expressions. No, how do you say?
Like
When it's
when it's
when
what, sir?
when it's a lot of
Emotions or a lot
yeah,
of high energy,
uh,
exposure to a lot of people.
exactly, and stuff like that. So when I finally had the chance to just calm a little, calm myself down a little bit, my immune system just crashed.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, I was homesick for 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Whoa. Whoa, 10 days. That's
yeah.
intense. What was it? May I ask you? Well, you don't have to answer, but was it
Yeah.
COVID? What was it? Was it
Ooh, I actually still waiting for my
results?
results.
Wow.
Yeah, but
How?
I had like 40 degrees fever, like
Wow.
stomach issues, like everything just crashed.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Well, how are you doing now? Are you on your
Oh,
way? You're good?
I'm good now. Yeah,
Okay. That's
yeah.
interesting. It's I guess your body reacting to all of that, which is pretty intense for anyone, I would imagine. Now, you know, you're the first Serbian amateur MMA world champion. How do you think your win will impact, Serbian amateur MMA development, particularly within as far as female fighters and male fighters? How do you think it will impact that? Because it's a major symbolic, move for the sport. Not only that, it was held in Serbia at the Stark Arena. Well, what does it all mean?
I think more and more like youth, like whether it's male or female people, I think they're gonna go. MMA will attract them more, because when they see like me, like girls particularly, young people, they will like look up to me and like, oh, I want to be like her, I want to be like cute and this, but I'm gonna be a fighter too, you know. They're
Right.
gonna be able to associate with me, like similarities, like, oh, I can be this, but I can be that too. So I think they're gonna start training MMA if they like have somebody they can like look
Look up to. Yeah, absolutely. What was the response like from people, from fans at the Stark Arena? Because I could hear during your matches, at times I thought it was a football match because people were chanting and screaming, just that natural high energy. What was that like for you, you know, fighting in such a, you know, packed space with all that energy and all that enthusiasm?
It actually gives me a lot more energy. I remember one day I was before stepping into the cage, I was really mad. I think I was like I was in a discussion with somebody, and
Okay.
he pissed me off, and I
Oh,
was like mad going into the the fight, and then I was just taking a look outside where the fans are, and I saw my family and the whole crew there, and then I just like, okay, I'm happy again. So it actually has effect for me. It gives me energy, it gives me happiness, and just knowing that they support me, and I want to give them back by kicking ass in the cage.
right on. Hey, I only have like a couple of more questions. By the way, I really appreciate this. We're probably going to go over a little over 60 minutes, but I'm curious to know what's your best memory from this entire experience and why? And I know that there's probably a lot of memories, right? Which
Yeah.
one memory sticks out the most and why?
Oh, yeah, I want to tell this actually. It was on the podium. I haven't been able to tell, but because I have a friend from Austria. We actually fought last year in the Worlds and exchanged Instagrams, and after that, we actually became very good friends. We were rivals at the Worlds, but we were actually having camp together,
Hmm.
and sharing that podium with her, because she was able to come on the third place. She was actually, it's thanks to her, my opponent in the finals, Oliveira, broke her arm.
Hmm.
So I have my friend to thank for my gold medal. So we are both champs, if you ask me. Yeah, and sharing that moment with her, that was extra special for me.
Right on. And who, I think we saw pictures of you meeting all sorts of, you know, sporting legends and so on. Who, give us an idea of the folks you met and anything you can share, any funny moments or any memorable
Oh,
moments.
this moment I'm not so very proud of, because
Oh,
I met Renzo
hmm,
Garcia, like he's a legend, the
right,
man myth legend, you know. But as a lot of fighter know, when you finish the fight, especially when you won, you are in cloud nine, and when you step out of the cage, you don't recognize people, you know. You're like full of yourself, and like
right.
full of like, yeah, endorphins and stuff. And then somebody was pulling me left, and then Renzo come to the right, and I didn't recognize him at all, you
Wow.
know. Like, yeah, and he was like, picture. I was like, yeah, you want to take picture? Yeah.
You didn't recognize Renzo Gracie. You didn't recognize him.
No.
No.
it was so fast because they were actually pulling me for the interviews, and then
Right.
he was grabbing me like quick on the other side, and I was like, "Oh, sure, we can take pictures, no problem."
Right. Wow.
Afterwards, I was, what the fuck is wrong with me? I was so ashamed. Like, I
Uh,
haven't shared this to anyone, but yeah, I was really ashamed of that
hey,
moment.
you know
Like,
what? I'm pretty sure. No, you shouldn't feel that way because I'm pretty sure. You know, anyone who understands that sort of scenario, you know, all the endorphins. You know, you've just fought,
yeah,
you've just won, high energy. You're being dragged left, right, and center. Some guy is dragging you and says picture. You probably thought it was a fan. Of course, you know what I mean. You didn't you know. So I wouldn't take offense to it. It makes for a great story. We're probably gonna share this clip and I'll tag him and we'll see if
sorry,
he
Andrew Garcia, you the best, okay? Number one, not me, you.
that's very cool. That is very funny. Now I'm curious, you know, out of all those messages that was sent to you via Instagram, I bet you like some managers probably reached out. You don't have to tell me if they did, it's none of my business. But
Yeah.
I'm like certain after they've seen the tournament, they've seen your fights, obviously they probably reached out. And I guess I don't know if I could even ask this question, but what's your next move for you? What are you going to do next? Are you going to be, you know, seeking another European, seeking another World's Championship? What's your next move?
I said it after Europeans. I thought I would go pro immediately after that, but as you know, stuff comes in the way, so I can't actually tell you nothing because I still don't know. Of course, in the future, I want to be professional, whether it's in 1 month or in 6 months. I don't know actually. So if I don't yeah, if I'm not able to do the professionals before Europeans, I'm gonna do the Europeans again because still I don't get fights nationally, so having just two, I mean, competitions in general are good for not to just get into the competition mode. So I'm gonna answer it like this.
Fair enough. I wanted to know in terms of like training opportunities and so on in Sweden and in Scandinavia, is there much of like do you guys have training camps where you go to other countries like say Finland or Norway or whatever? Is there particularly amongst the women in terms of, you know, cross training? Is there such opportunities for training or probably amateur level competitions? Is that option available?
I know a lot of female fighters in Sweden going to different gyms because they need other partners to do camps. But because we actually have 3 women and a lot of male fighters that are within our weight classes, I don't. We in my gym, we don't usually go to other camps. I sometimes go to Austria because my friend is there and we are the same weight class, but it's more like we haven't seen each other in a while, so
Right.
it's more like a friendly visit than it's a camp. But I know it's common from different gyms and across Sweden.
Now, it's just a follow-up training question. From your experience at the Worlds, what have you learned about yourself as a competitor? What area of your fighting do you want to improve? Is there an area that you want to improve? What are you working on now in terms of your training?
Yes, I saw actually a lot of flaws, like because I'm always analyzing myself, like and also I film my sparrings and analyze myself, but I actually wanna mix it up even more. regarding the striking, because I think I'm too much upright and a lot of just going forward. And on higher levels, it's easy to get knocked out, and that's something I want to work more on.
Interesting. And you've caught this flaw just by watching your fights, sort of thing, like or is this your coaches and your team also chiming in? And
it's my coach, and also, well, after he said that, I saw it also, and he has a good point.
Can you tell us who your coaches are and your teammates? Can you give us an idea and mention the dojo or the gym that you're training
in? I'm from Gothenburg and training in Gbg Mac with my head coach Joakim Engberg. Together with we have 4 professional fighters, and that is Cornelia Hall. You maybe heard of her. And then we have Anton Turkal. He's now in Las Vegas because he's gonna compete in the UFC. And then Zvonimir Kral and John Odenqvist. And then we have our amateur guys also, Alexander Håkansson and Hanna Palmqvist. That is my partner in crime, I usually say. But in Serbia, I train in Smederevo Club Fanatic, and it's a small town in Serbia. And there, my friends and trainers are Nikola and Miljan Vasiljevic.
Who's your biggest influence in your development as a combat sports athlete? Who's been that one major influence for you?
It's Coach Joakim Engberg.
Last question for you. What is the best advice you've ever been given as a competitor? And what advice, I guess it's a 2-part question, sorry. I could go on for hours, but I'll keep it short. So the first part question is, what's the best advice you were given? And what's the best advice you give to anyone looking to be where you are?
The best advice is you're gonna I don't know how to translate it, but I'm gonna try. Sure. How you train is how you're gonna compete, if you understand. Like, that's the best advice I have received. And now the best advice I can give somebody else.
Yes, please.
If you know exactly what you want, take action today and work for it hard every day.
Wow. Thank you very much for this interview. I really appreciate your time and your insight, and I want to wish you all the best with your fighting. I'll be following along, and I hope we all follow along, and maybe we get to interview you again. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful day. I only know how to say hello and bye in Swedish and Serbian, and I don't know how to say bye. Maybe you could teach us how do we say bye. I know the dobar dan. No, that's hello, right?
That's good day. Hello.
Good day. Is that how you say the dobar dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you say it in Swedish? How do you say peace out?
Hey. And hej då. Hello is hej, and goodbye is hej då.
Hej då. I thought, isn't hello habari?
No.
Oh my God! Google Translate lied to me, man. I was using Google Translate.
I heard it, but I was like, okay.
Also, it doesn't even mean habari is not even a Swedish word.
No, wow. I don't know where you got it. Sorry.
Well, that's I'm embarrassed now.
But I was like, it went so fast. Sometimes my brain.
Wow, I'm embarrassed now. I'm like, I can't believe it. I thought I prepared my notes. I was such a nerd, I prepared all my notes. I'm like, yeah.
Don't worry, it happens to all of us.
Right on. Well, thank you very much, and
thank you too.
Yeah, I'll be following, and I wish you all the best. I'm looking forward to seeing you fight on the big stage.
I'm looking forward to that too, and thank you very much for this interview. I appreciate it as well.